This is your recap of the Karen Reed trial for April 23rd, 2025.
Now, you mentioned yesterday that when you got to Fairview, the defendant began kicking your door.
Yes,
When you looked out, you didn't see anything.
I did not.
And at some point, you ran over to where Miss Reed was.
Yes.
Tell us what your first observations are when you get close to the defendant.
Well, it was a shape of a body, like the length of a body, shape of a body. She ran over, and I said, oh, my God. I jumped out of the car. I ran over, and she was lifting up his shirt to try and warm him, I guess. So I went over to his head, and I began to dig his head out of the snow.
Can you take us back and describe for us what you're seeing?
His body was completely covered, but his head was completely covered. So I started to dig around his face and his eyes, and his left eye was fine, but his right eye looked like it was huge, like he had something happen to it. And after that, I told Karen to get off him. We were going to start CPR. I had been certified at work through the American Red Cross, so I knew chest compressions were more important. So I started to do chest compressions, and I yelled to Jen and told her to call 911. Karen was trying to do mouth-to-mouth. I don't know if she knew what she was doing, but I knew chest compressions were more important, so I concentrated on that. I yelled for Jen. I carry blankets. I have 2 kids, so I carry blankets in the car, so I yelled to Jen to get the blankets. I don't know what I thought I was doing with blankets, but I wrapped them around his head, just thinking, we're trying to warm him up. He was covered in snow.
When you finally get to the hospital, take us through your first steps. What happens?
We finally get to the hospital. We walked in. Paul, John's brother, was there. We went over to him, and then Susanna, Mrs. O'Keefe's niece, came out from her office and offered to take me to the bathroom to wash up because I had blood all over my hands. So I went into the bathroom, and I asked her afterwards if she could take me to the chapel so I could say a prayer. So she did. She took me to the chapel, and then when I came out, she took me into her office and explained to me that a Dr. Rice was going to come talk to the family and take them into an office and talk to the family, and then the family would be able to go see John.
Did you get a chance to see John?
I did.
Would you be willing to tell us a little bit about what you saw?
Objection.
I waited in the waiting area. I spoke to my mom. Phone calls were coming in because people had heard what happened. And Mrs. O'Keefe, the family went in to see Dr. Rice. I watched them go in. I watched them walk down a hallway. And then when they came back out, Mrs. O'Keefe told me he was gone.
Objection.
Strike that statement, folks. It's not part of the record.
Without telling us what anybody said to you, please just share with us what you saw.
I went into the hospital room, and John was in a neck brace. At this point, there was a trail of blood going toward the gurney or the bed that he was on. This time, both eyes were filled with blood. They looked like raccoons. That's the only way to describe it. I thought he was going to look better seeing him in the hospital because he had been worked on, but he was not. There was much more blood.
Were there any other ways that John looked different in the hospital than when you first brushed the snow off his face in the front of Fairview?
When I brushed the snow off his face, his left eye was fine. It had an ice cube on it that I pulled off, but the right eye was out to here, like a golf ball. When I got to the hospital, both eyes were swollen with, it looked like blood. They looked purple.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
May I quickly approach sidebar? I'm going to show you a photograph.
Yeah.
You recognize it?
Yes, I do.
Is that how John looked?
Yes, he did.
I'd ask that the camera not film that, please.
I'd like to mark this as an exhibit. I will not publish it.
Exhibit 14.
May I approach around?
Yes.
Thank you.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. After you last saw your friend John, what did you do?
After the hospital?
I'm sorry, ma'am?
After the hospital,
Yes.
I drove. Well, we went back into the corridor with the family. And Karen at one point called from the hospital asking me, she said her father was on his way and could I go over and greet him or bring him to the O'Keefes when he arrived, and she described him. Her father did arrive, so I went over and said, "Are you Mr. Reed?" or something of that nature, and I said, "Mr. O'Keefe would like to speak to you." So Mr. Reed went over and spoke to Mr. O'Keefe, and Paul and John's parents and I, we didn't know next steps. We were waiting to see if we could leave or if we have to give information, and eventually we were able to leave. So I drove Mr. O'Keefe home, and Paul drove Mrs. O'Keefe home to John's house.
Before you left John, did you take a bracelet from him?
When Mrs. O'Keefe and I went in to see John in the hospital, there was a bracelet that was on his right wrist. It was a blue, like, rubber bracelet. And that bracelet was made when his sister passed away, and her husband, and he wore it all the time. Mrs. O'Keefe still wears it to this day.
My name is Margaret O'Keefe. I am John O'Keefe's mother.
Are you married?
Yes,
Who are you married to?
John O'Keefe Jr.
How long have you been married for?
Too long. 53 years.
I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't hear you.
53. Long enough?
Tell me a little bit about your immediate family.
My daughter.
My daughter Kristen had a tumor, a cancerous tumor that she had for 5 months. And she died in November of 13. She had 2 children. And then 2 months after she passed, her husband passed from a heart attack. And then you all know about John. And then my son Paul is over there.
I understand at some point John worked in law enforcement.
Yes.
Besides that, could you just share just a little bit about him with us?
He was a police officer at headquarters. And when he first started, he was in Hyde Park, and then he moved to Dorchester, and then into Boston itself, and that's what he did.
I was hoping if you could tell us a little bit about John besides his work.
He was enthusiastic with sports. He was wonderful with the kids. He took care of them and did everything for them. Take them places on vacations and everything. He was their number one, and they called him JJ.
Would you mind if I showed you a photograph?
No?
May I approach?
Yes.
I'm showing you a photograph,
Okay.
and could you tell us what you see?
That's my son?
Thank you. May I introduce this as an exhibit?
Yes.
Exhibit 16.
Thank you. With the court's permission, I'd like to publish.
Yes.
Ms. O'Keefe, do you know when this picture was taken?
I really don't know. It was in the summer of I don't know what year. I really don't know the year. But is that one he probably took him to a fair or an amusement park, and he had his picture taken there with it. And then the kids were with him too, so.
Do you know how old he was in that picture?
43, maybe.
Okay. What year was John born?
75.
Ms. Gilman, could you take the photo down, please? How old was John when he passed?
45. My mind's not working right now.
I understand. It's okay. Can I ask you a few more questions? Okay. You let me know. I want to go back to the morning of January 29th, 2022. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Were you home?
I was home in Braintree.
In Braintree.
Mm-hmm.
Who were you with?
My husband?
Did you receive a phone call?
Yes, from Kerry Roberts. It was about 6:15, between 6:15 and 6:30 in the morning.
Did you know Kerry Roberts?
Yes.
How did you know her?
She lived in Braintree for a while. John and her were friends. They went to the junior prom together. And then we found out that she moved. She lived in Canton, and she was around the corner from us, and she helped us out with the kids.
And when you were helping take care of the kids, would you often see Miss Roberts?
Yeah, because she'd take Patrick and her son Ryan places. And, yeah, so I saw her all the time.
Often?
Yeah.
When she called you that morning, do you remember the conversation?
Yeah, she said John was found in a snowbank. And I didn't understand, which I said, what do you mean found in a snowbank? She said, they found him in the snow. They don't know what happened. She says he's brought up to the Good Samaritan Hospital.
So she says, I'm going to come get you and Papa because I don't want you driving. And I says,
we can drive there. We both have four-wheel drives. And she said, no, I'm coming. So she came to get us. And it took a while to get there because the snow was bad. And in the meantime, I had called one of my nieces to find out, because one of my other nieces worked at Good Samaritan, and I just wanted to know if she could find out anything about it. And I just couldn't get a hold of her. So when we get up there, they told us to sit in this room, and they would bring us down shortly. So finally they said, okay, you can go down. So we started walking down the corridor, and as I'm walking down, I hear Karen Reed yell, Peg, is he dead? Is he dead, Peg? Peg, is he dead?
and I just kept walking. And then I asked, I don't know who it was, a nurse or a worker at the hospital. And I said, what is she doing here? And she says, oh, she's being psych evaluated. So then they brought us down to the room where my son was. He's bruised up, his eyes were closed. It's just not a good scene.
Okay. I'd like to go back, if I may.
Okay.
May I?
Yep.
When Kerry Roberts picked you up in the car, did anybody go with you and Miss Roberts on the drive from your home in Braintree to Good Samaritan Hospital?
No, we were the only three in the car.
Who was the third person?
My husband?
During the drive to Good Samaritan Hospital that morning,
Yep.
did you ever have a chance while you were in the car to speak to the defendant?
Yes.
Please tell the jury about that conversation.
She, I asked her what happened, and she said, we went to a party. I left him there. I said, you just left him there? She said, yes, I just left him there.
Did she say whether she left him inside or outside?
No, she just said, I left him there.
Did she tell you whether or not she left him in the driveway or the street?
She just said, no, I just left him there.
You told us that when you got into Good Samaritan Hospital, you were walking down the hallway and you had another interaction with the defendant.
Yes.
And you told us that she was asking if he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe a little bit where in the hospital you had this interaction with her?
When they took us down to the emergency room, the doors open, and there was a corridor to go down to the other rooms, and she was on the left-hand side, and that's when she saw me come in, and that's when she started yelling, is he dead, Peg? Is he dead, Peg?
So when she was yelling, could you describe her mood or demeanor? Was she animated?
She's just loud, and I don't know, she was just loud, and as she was saying it.
And when she was asking you, is he dead, did you again ask her a question?
I just asked the nurse, what is she doing here?
Okay. And did you speak to Miss Reed herself?
No. No.
At some point, and you and your husband got to see John?
Yes.
And were you with Kerry at some point?
Kerry was there, and then my son Paul was there.
How did you get home?
I think I went home with Paul, and I think my husband went home with Kerry. We went back to Canton at the time.
Do you remember generally the time frame? Was it morning, afternoon, evening?
No, it was morning.
Do you remember getting home that day?
Yeah. It was snowy, icy.
Was anybody home when you got back?
No, it was just us. And then the kids started coming home. And that's when I was trying to, take care of them. And then there was a knock at the door. And it was Karen, her father, and her brother asked if they could come in. And I was just trying to calm the kids because Patrick was just out of control, yelling. And then they came in. And then he said, do you mind if we go upstairs and get a couple of her things? Which I never should have let them go up there. But at the time, I just couldn't think straight. And I really didn't have anybody else to help me keep them down in the kitchen. So I don't know what they got up there, what they did up there.
How long were they, when you say upstairs, do you know what room they went to?
I assumed the bedroom.
So I'm going to strike that, Mrs. O'Keefe. If you could just, what you actually know, okay? And Mr. Brennan can ask a better question.
Thank you. Could I lead a bit?
Yes.
Ma'am, how many rooms are upstairs in John's home?
1, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms and an office. And off the master bedroom, there's a bathroom, and then there's a closet. It's a big house.
Did you see the defendant and her father go upstairs?
I didn't really see them go up, but I knew they were up there because I could hear them.
You didn't follow them up or go to look?
No.
You didn't know which room or rooms they were in?
No, I'm assuming the bathroom and the master bedroom.
My question was poor. You didn't see which rooms they actually went in?
No.
How long was the defendant upstairs in John's home with her father?
I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes?
Did you see them come back down?
No, I did not.
When they were upstairs, what were you doing?
I was trying to calm the kids.
Both of them?
But yeah, well, mainly Patrick.
How was Patrick reacting?
He was very upset once we told him because he slept over a friend's house the night before, and he just said, I'll never see him again. Sorry.
Would you like a moment?
Mrs. O'Keefe, would you like to take a short break?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
You can just let me know when you're ready. Take your time.
Okay, go ahead.
You ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. That morning, when the defendant and her father came into your home, did you personally interact with the defendant?
Nope.
Was there any hugs, condolences?
Nope.
Did you ever confront the defendant with any accusations when she was in your home that morning?
I don't even remember her being in the house. When she went upstairs, that's the last I saw of her.
Did you ever lean over a kitchen island? Do you have a kitchen island in your house?
No.
Did you ever lean over the kitchen island and say, I think he looks like he got hit by a car?
No. I don't remember talking to her that morning.
Did you see when she left?
Nope.
Did you ever see her Lexus in the driveway?
Nope.